So we have a unique presentation tonight, and I've titled this Calling All Students Using Logos 4 in the Classroom. And I need to preface why I did this. When I was in seminary from 2000 to 2005, I had Logos, and it was an absolute lifesaver. In fact, back in 2000, that was when Logos was version 3. Most students didn't have a laptop. I was very fortunate to have one, and most didn't even know about Bible software. Well, by the time I graduated with my MDiv in 2005, everyone had a laptop and everyone was using Bible software. It was just an essential tool today to get through school. And so what I'm going to try to do is bring in some of that experience, but this is going to be a little unique from other webinars. Most of the webinars, for those who've participated, very intense. We're going to show you a lot of features and really work through this. But preparing for class is a little different. So tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to certainly recommend resources along the way, because that is important for the classroom. I am going to show some critical features that I feel that you just have to know to use Logos 4 in the classroom very well. But I'm going to organize it by the classes that you would expect to see in seminary as well as in the undergraduate. So I've kind of categorized the classes. So let me take a look at that and in a second here. But let me just quickly show you where we are in the 2012 webinar tracks. Tonight's January 9th, calling all students. You can see a month from now we're going to be how to use syntax search engine online. So if you've been wanting to know how to use that tool, it is covered in training videos, but we're going to go really in depth there. So you can see some of the exciting topics we've got coming up. Don't forget, this is one of 3 webinars this month, and every month we have the first Monday, and we just moved it to today because of the holidays. The next one will be January 23rd. That typically is the 3rd Monday of the month, but again, the holidays have changed this month's calendar. And then the 4th Monday of the month is January 30th. So if you aren't signed up for all 3, it's a free sign up. Go to LearnLogos.com/webinar. Once you sign up for each Monday, you're good for the whole year. You don't have to sign up again, so take advantage of that. Now, we are going to record the webinars, as many of you know, who are regular attendees, and for those who are new, we will send out an email within the next 24 hours with a link to download for $4.99 for this training. And I can't stress enough, the webinars are wonderful. It's interactive. It's a lot of fun. We get a lot of great questions. But really, the webinars assume a little bit of knowledge with Logos. And if you're looking to grow in your knowledge of Logos 4, then the training CDs, which can be received or be gotten with a download. So you can download these. You can get them in CDs, or you can do both. And I just see a question here by Donald. What happened to Shortcuts Part 3? That's coming up later this month. What you saw was just the Monday night track. We're going to do Shortcut 3 in the second night. So you'll see that later in the month, Donald. Great question. So if you are still learning Logos 4 or haven't gotten the training CDs, this is a must-have. The orange disc will lay the foundation for Logos 4, show you all the features. The blue disc will help you apply that for the purpose of studying the Bible, specifically the Great Commission passage. Will show you how to do verse-by-verse study. And then the green disc is a download only right now, and that's an update. And if you already have the training CDs, that's a free download. You can just get that at LearnLogos.com. But I want to stress this. Tonight's training is, like I said, is unique. So I'm not going to go through every feature you would use in the classroom in that sense. That's what the training CDs are for, and that's what the other webinars are for. What I'm going to do is show you strategies to use Logos for the classroom. So I want to make that important distinction. So if you're in seminary or an undergraduate or looking at going to school and you don't have this training, you have to get this, because this will make a huge difference in your ability to succeed in the classroom. So enough said. Let's talk about the topics that we're going to cover tonight. We got 14 topics. If you believe that or not, we're going to cover this. All right. First thing is, what are the recommended resources? If you're heading to undergrad or seminary or postgraduate, what are they? We're going to look at that. We're going to definitely talk about citing sources, because that feature is critical. Then here's some of the classes that you would typically find in a undergraduate, graduate, postgraduate program. Now, they may change in the level and complexity and detailed from like a beginner, intermediate to advanced, but these are the main categories. We'll talk about your survey classes. We'll talk about your hermeneutics, theology, your prayer class, counseling, apologetics, evangelism. Then we'll get into picking your paper topics, and this is something you may not even have considered, but a lot of professors and a lot of schools will give you several choices for your paper topics. So how do you determine that with Logos? We'll talk about that. Then I've got an extra bonus issue here about planning your ministry activities and give you a strategy to make the most out of your time of ministry while you're in school. We'll talk about preparing for ordination. We'll talk about some preaching strategies, also some big topics you better know about and how Logos can help you study that. And then we'll just briefly touch on the personal book builder and its role that it can play. So you can see this is a little more lecture in this training tonight than it will be hands-on Logos, but we will be showing you some Logos features along the way. So I hope you're excited with this topic. Let's begin. So what are the recommended resources? Now, what I've put together, and I need to mention this. Let me switch here for a moment to a document. And tonight's webinar is going to include the supplemental guide I call it the supplemental guide. And it's going to have a list of everything that I'm going to be covering, as you can see here. So there's quite a bit of material here. It's about 3 pages worth of information. So some of the shortcuts, some of the various pieces of information I'll be sharing will be included in addition to the webinar. So if you're feverishly taking notes, fret not, we'll have all that documented for you. Okay, so let's talk about recommended resources. If you're heading to college, undergraduate degree, you really just need Scholars, Silver, or Gold. Scholars is going to be the minimum. Oh, Doretta just made a comment. She's got Bible school begins tomorrow. Good. So if I would throw in Bible school with the college level. And you really need to have Scholars. Once you move into Silver, you're going to get more commentaries, more language resources. That's important. And then Gold, of course, is good. It's very rare that you're going to need Platinum at the college level unless you're taking Greek and Hebrew courses. Okay, so it's a way of kind of saving some money. Now, if your school requires Logos for the class, don't forget to take advantage of the academic discount, which can range from 30% to 50% off, which is a great savings. So very important, and it can never hurt to give Logos a call if you're enrolled in school and they don't have the Logos program, to give them a call and tell them that you're in school, and you might be able to get a Logos discount on the collection as well as on some of the resources. Now, if you're heading to seminary, your whole resource collection is going to change, because you're going to need some additional books in order to succeed in the studying. And this is my point where I'm going. Depending on your school, you may have access to a paper library, traditional brick and mortar library. I did, and it was one of the better ones there in the West Coast. But the libraries don't have everything. And if you're like most students like me, you're trying to get from one class to the next, trying to get one paper done, the next assignment, the last thing you want to do is have to go to the library, or worse, go to the library and try to find a book that some other student checked out, or worse, it doesn't even exist at your library. So the advantage of having Logos is you've got that built-in library with you. And so if you can plan in advance and build your library strategically before you get to school, hey, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. And that's what happened with me. I had Logos several years before seminary, and while I was working full-time, I was able to build up that library. I was able to cut my library time probably 75%. While the rest of my colleagues in school were, trying to make sure they could get in there and get the book before someone else, and they hated when the library closed. It just was a frustrating experience. So here's what I recommend. You've got to have at least Silver, Gold, and I do recommend top-of-the-line Platinum. I don't think Portfolio is really necessary for seminary. You'd have to look at those books, talk to your professors, and see if that extra cost is really going to be beneficial. The price difference between Platinum and Portfolio is so substantial that you could use those monies elsewhere for other resources that will definitely serve you. The theological journals, these are an absolute must-have. I use those journals every single paper in school. That's how great they were. And they're survey books. Again, we're going to talk about all these in general and more specific when we get into the individual classes. Theology books, you've got to get more of those. You've got to get all the grammar books you possibly can, especially if the seminary that you're in is requiring you to learn Greek and Hebrew. The more grammar books you have, life will be made simpler. Okay, Bill's got a question. Logos can help with distance, non-traditional, and online courses too. Absolutely, Bill. In fact, Logos makes it possible for you to take your classes online and at distance because now the library is 17,000 plus books and pretty much everything you need is there. Now the BDAG and Halot is a Greek and Hebrew dictionary that's the premier, it's the standard for scholars, and that's another opportunity there to get. They do sell it as a bundle, but I believe one of those, the BDAG, is part of a collection of like gold, I think, or higher. So be careful before you buy the bundle and make sure you don't already have the resource, or if you're going to upgrade to the collection, be careful not to buy the bundle if you're going to get one of the two resources. Also, some of the programs you might be in will include some counseling classes. So Logos has some pretty good counseling resources like Jay Adams and a few others that you'll want to consider. And then music, and believe it or not, that is there's quite an interesting list of resources available in Logos now that has a lot of the traditional hymns. Unfortunately, it doesn't have all the contemporary music, which would be really handy if that was versified. But there is enough hymns in there that you can search against, so you want to consider getting that. I think you can get all the music hymns for under $200 if you're strategic in the way you buy things. If you're going to a doctorate program, this is where it gets really tricky because you're going to need to talk to your school, and you're certainly going to need all the above resources that I just mentioned, all right? But you're going to want to look at your focus of study, talk to your professor, get their bibliography list, and begin to see which resources are available in Logos. This will allow you to really be strategic in acquiring these resources. And again, if you can get the academic discount, do so, because you will save money again on not only the collections but also on individual resources. Now I have two links here. I'm going to click on these. Logos has a list, and I provide the link in the supplemental guide that you can get with the website or with the webinar. But there's a product guide, and what I like about this resource here, again, it's LearnLogos.com /Hebrew/OT. And what Logos does on this page is it walks you through all the Bibles with some brief descriptions. And then down below it talks about, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Hebrew New Testament, the reverse interlinears. Then it goes into the category of lexicons and what's available. And if you scroll down further, again, I'm moving a little fast here, but you'll be able to review this at your leisure. There's your grammars, there's your learning grammars, your reference grammars, so showing you the differences there. Scrolling down a little bit further, here's some advanced studies. So there's where, if you're taking a doctorate, you may need the Hebrew studies or some linguistic books or even other books along the way. And then scrolling down, some critical apparatuses. These are very expensive, so you only want to get these if you absolutely have to have them. And then there's the technical commentaries, non-canonical text, that is things like the Apocrypha or pseudepigrapha and so forth, or even things like Dead Sea Scrolls and whatnot. And you can see this, other historical documents, cultural information, and so forth. And then books on exegetical methods, additional resources, and add-in modules. So again, Logos.com /Hebrew/OT will get you to the Hebrew resources. Sylvia has a question. Does the Platinum contain this product you're mentioning? This is where it gets a little tricky. Platinum does contain some, but most most of these resources are not included. So you're really going to need to sit down and put together kind of a buy list and determine what your needs are. The great thing is Logos does offer payment plans, and then the next webinar is January 23rd, so no webinar next week. I need to recover for this one. Studying Important Doctrine with Logos 4, True versus False Faith. This is going to be really fun because we're going to dig into the issue, what is genuine saving faith? And you don't want to miss this as we learn how to study this particular topic and define what genuine saving faith is. So very excited for this next one coming up in 2 weeks.